Residents in Illinois have been speaking up against a proposed utility bill hike. Next week, the Illinois Commerce Commission, the ICC, is expected to rule on a rate hike request from People's Gas. If passed, the $402 million hike would take effect in January. Monday, a Chicago City Council committee also discussed the topic, where representatives from People's Gas spoke and opponents asked aldermen to oppose the plan. People's Gas provides service to nearly 900,000 customers in Chicago, again asking state regulators for a combined $400 million rate hike. If approved, this would add roughly $12 to an average bill in January. This is People's Gas makes record profits. That sounds like it deserves a deeper dive, so that's what we do here on the stream. 34th Ward Alderman Bill Conway joining us now. Thank you, Mr. Conway, for your time.
Brad, thanks for having me. Absolutely, as always.
You took People's Gas to task at a council meeting earlier this week. Take me through your whole thoughts on this. The number, $402 million, what questions you ask, what you want to know.
Yeah, you know, as you indicated, they are asking for a record rate hike after 6 straight years of record profits. And what was a bit troubling in the hearing is they said, you know, if we don't get that, they are likely to cut jobs and cut charitable contributions. And, you know, and I don't think that's right. And this is also a situation where we have a lot of low-income Chicagoans are falling further and further into debt to People's Gas. And, you know, I don't think that's right. And we have a situation, for example, in Englewood, where almost half the customers are in debt, and the average debt load is almost $1,000. And yet People's Gas requesting a record rate hike at a time when this will simply put low-income Chicagoans further into debt.
Remarkable. They're threatening cutting jobs and donations. A rough week at City Council. You know, many council members have been bullied by the floor leader with threats of not getting zoned. But I mean, that's it just doesn't seem right. But People's Gas says.
And perhaps to add to that, you know, what's especially troubling is that in their previous earnings release, People's Gas credited late fee revenue as a driver of that profit. And of course, that late fee revenue hits disproportionately on low-income Chicagoans. And a record rate hike in these times seems that it will be especially hard-hitting, as you mentioned, about, you know, $12 a month. And for a lot of people, that's a lot of money.
So, I mean, late fees are dinging the people that already can't afford to pay their bill.
Yeah.
So you're dinging them harder, and of course those fees are exactly as you said, regressive. So that affects poorer people more. Billionaires aren't affected by a late fee like someone who pulls in 60 grand a year. So People's Gas says prices are low. Gas prices, so really no biggie, and they need it to improve infrastructure. One expert said, though, if People's Gas gets their largest rate hike in Illinois history, it will intensify a crisis of soaring heating costs that has been going on for a decade. So they may be talking short-term, gas is low, but heating crisis going on for a decade, add in inflation. What are the alternatives, though?
Well, I mean, to talk about natural gas prices for a bit, you know, about you know, a year ago to 2 years ago, there was a significant increase in natural gas prices. Those, fortunately, have come back to normal. And so an argument that People's Gas made before the ICC in August is that, look, if you give this rate hike, it's not really going to make a difference because we just pass along the price of natural gas. And so that won't, really affect the overall bill. But the problem is natural gas is, of course, a very volatile commodity coming off a time when it was unusually high. And even since they said that in August, natural gas prices have gone up almost 30%, from about $250 per million BTUs to, you know, $320-ish, depends on, it's very volatile, so it depends on, you know, what time you're looking.
Yeah, I mean, it can soar like any commodity. So when they say it was low, they were taking a moment in time when it was low. So this will fund in part a 2011 program started in 2011 to replace 2,000 miles of aging pipes. It was supposed to cost $2.6 billion to be done roughly 2030. Now it's going to cost $8 billion and be done by 2040. So that's on them, one would say.
Well,
a decade
exactly
behind and
it.
3 times the cost. But these quasi-public-private companies always seem to get what they want. ComEd, et cetera, they all do it, and they get what they want through the ICC. What do you do to people's gas to make sure they don't get what they want? And I know it's not necessarily even your purview. It's the Illinois Commerce Commission, the ICC, but you have a voice. What are you going to use that voice for?
Well, as you correctly pointed out, it's that the price of the pipe replacement program has significantly increased. Initially, it actually was as low as $1.5 billion, and now I've seen estimates that go as high as 12. And
wow.
The program has been extended out significantly from there. So, and this is due to mismanagement of the program. And so, the point that we need to make to the ICC is that it's not necessarily low-income Chicagoans and their late fee revenue that should be funding this, but shareholders should play a bigger role in that as well.
That's a really good point. I mean, probably the most brilliant you could make to the ICC is this shouldn't come from late fees from a grandma on the south side. This should come from those raking in the dividends living on Lake Geneva. Of note, People's Gas broke yet another record in net income for 2022. Net more than $200 million. So $209 million to be exact. Alderman Conway, we thank you for being a voice for your constituents and more, and we thank you for joining us on the stream.
Always a pleasure, Brad. I appreciate it.
Okay. Appreciate you, Alderman Conway.